To begin today's story, I invite you to visit a small corner of Gaza City. Gaza City is the largest city and the economic and cultural hub of the Gaza Strip, with a population of approximately 600,000 people. In stark contrast to the glamorous image of a modern economic center, anyone would be shocked to witness this scene. Here is a 4-year-old child lying curled up in a hospital, their frail body reduced to skin and bones. This child's image is a heartbreaking symbol of the humanitarian crisis engulfing the Gaza Strip. A famine is unfolding in the 21st century. Many are left wondering, what is happening to humanity? Where's the love for one another on this earth? Here is another image captured by Reuters, showing children lining up outside a charity kitchen in Gaza City, holding empty bowls, waiting for a meager portion of lentil soup, the only thing keeping them from starvation each day. Among you, who is raising young children? How are your children living? Do they get to go to school? Are they eating enough? Can they play freely? For the children in the Gaza Strip, life has faded away, even though the sun still rises every day. Why is there a famine in the Gaza Strip? The famine in the Gaza Strip is not a natural phenomenon, but a direct consequence of political, military, and economic factors. According to A1 Jazeera, the famine in Gaza is described as man-made and stems from an 11-week blockade imposed by Israel since March 2nd, 2025. This blockade has halted the supply of food, fuel, and humanitarian aid, plunging over 2 million people into severe shortages. Israel imposed a strict blockade on the Gaza Strip, severely restricting access to food, clean water, medicine, and fuel. Only 2 border crossings, Rafah and Abu Salem, were opened, but humanitarian aid was allowed in only at a trickle, approximately 100 to 150 trucks per day compared to a minimum need of 500 trucks. This has depleted food supplies and pushed over 1.1 million people into severe food insecurity. Under international pressure, Israel on May 19th of 2025 permitted dozens of aid trucks to enter Gaza after nearly 3 months of blockade, approximately 11 weeks since March 2nd, 2025. However, 8 trucks were stuck at the Kerem Shalom crossing due to security restrictions and the unsafe route designed by the Israeli military. UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric stated that most aid supplies could not leave the crossing area for distribution to Gaza's population. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, and the World Food Programme, WFP, before the war, Gaza relied on approximately 500 aid trucks daily to meet basic needs. However, since March 2025, the number of trucks allowed into Gaza has dropped to a minimum, with only 5 to 100 trucks permitted through the Kerem Shalom crossing in recent days. Humanitarian organizations like Doctors Without Borders, MSF, have described this aid as grossly insufficient and merely a smokescreen to conceal the ongoing blockade. Additionally, Israel's military campaign involving airstrikes and expanded ground operations has destroyed nearly all of Gaza's infrastructure, including homes, hospitals, and food production facilities. According to A1 Jazeera, over 53,600 people, mostly women and children, have been killed, while tens of thousands more have been injured or displaced, making access to food nearly impossible. Impact on children. Children are the group most severely affected by the famine in Gaza. According to a May 12, 2025 report from the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, IPC, 1.95 million people, equivalent to 93% of Gaza's population, are facing severe food insecurity. Of these, approximately 71,000 children require urgent treatment for acute malnutrition. UNICEF warns that over 1 million children in Gaza are at risk of starvation, deprived of food, clean water, and medicine. The World Health Organization, WHO, reports that at least 57 children have died due to the effects of malnutrition since the blockade began. Notably, 14,000 infants are at risk of death if aid is not delivered promptly. Malnutrition not only causes direct deaths, but also weakens immune systems, making children more susceptible to infectious diseases. While Gaza's healthcare facilities have nearly collapsed entirely, a stark example is the case of a 4-year-old child suffering from malnutrition at a UN-operated Salhadin school sheltered in Gaza City on June 10th of 2024. Surviving children are enduring severe psychological trauma. Images of children lining up at charity kitchens highlight the desperation of the crisis. Soaring food prices, with a sack of flour now costing up to 1,700 shekels, nearly $480, have made it impossible for families to access even basic necessities. Humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. The famine has plunged Gaza into one of the most severe humanitarian crises in recent history. According to the World Health Organization, this situation is one of the worst hunger crises in the world unfolding before our eyes. The IPC warns that an official famine declaration could be issued any time between now and September 2025, when at least 20% of households face severe food shortages, over 30% of children suffer from acute malnutrition, and mortality rates due to hunger or related causes surge. This crisis extends beyond food scarcity to the collapse of life-sustaining systems. Clean water, electricity, and fuel are nearly non-existent, while operational hospitals face shortages of medicine and medical equipment. Furthermore, aid distribution is hindered by security restrictions and ongoing violence. According to Reuters, although some aid trucks have been allowed into Gaza, they often fail to reach the population due to security issues and lack of coordination in distribution. Humanitarian organizations like Action Against Hunger warn that food supplies in southern Gaza are only sufficient to prevent acute malnutrition for less than 7 days. Looting of aid due to desperation has also increased, further complicating distribution efforts. International response. The International Committee has responded in various ways to address this crisis, but the effectiveness remains limited. On May 20th, 2025, 23 countries, including the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, issued a joint statement urging Israel to end the politicization of humanitarian aid and ensure safe access to relief workers. They also expressed concerns about the proposal by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, GHF, an organization backed by Israel and the US, as its distribution model could endanger civilians and undermine existing relief efforts. The European Union, EU, has pledged €170 million in humanitarian aid for Gaza and the West Bank in 2025, while calling for the safety of humanitarian workers. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen have condemned the humanitarian situation in Gaza as unacceptable, and demanded the immediate lifting of the blockade. However, the United Nations and major humanitarian organizations like UNICEF and WFP emphasize that current aid is merely a drop in the ocean. They call for a ceasefire and the complete removal of the blockade to enable effective aid distribution. Some countries, including the UK, France, and Canada, have warned of potential sanctions if Israel does not change its policies. The famine in the Gaza Strip is a man-made humanitarian disaster stemming from the blockade, warfare, and the collapse of life-sustaining systems. Children, with their fragile bodies and high nutritional needs, are suffering the most, with tens of thousands facing the risk of death due to malnutrition. This crisis is not only about food scarcity, but also the complete breakdown of basic living conditions. Despite international efforts, current solutions remain insufficient to avert the catastrophe. A ceasefire, lifting of the blockade, and robust international coordination are essential to bring hope to millions of Gazans, especially the children fighting to survive each day. If you find this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to Mr. Know-It-All for more informative updates. For now, thank you, and see you next time.